How temperature affects solubility of salt in water. Have you ever wondered what temperature would dissolve salt the fastest? In this investigation, you will learn and discover what temperature will dissolve 30 grams of NaCl in 100 milliliters of H2O. The solvent, 100 milliliters of water, will dissolve the solute, 30 grams of salt. We will test what temperature dissolves the solution fastest. Our hypothesis will be tested, being that 30 grams of salt will dissolve faster in hot water compared to 30 grams of salt in either cold or room temperature. What is solubility? Solubility refers to the capacity of a particular substance that can melt or soften in a particular solvent. In this experiment, the solute is the salt, or NaCl, and the solvent is water, H2O. Here are some questions to keep in mind. How long does it take to dissolve 30 grams of salt in 100 milliliters of water, and how long will it take in hot or cold water? Our hypothesis is 30 grams of salt in 100 milliliters of hot water will dissolve quicker than 30 grams of salt in 100 milliliters of room temperature or cold water. Here are some materials that are needed. You're going to need 3 100 milliliter beakers, 30 grams of salt in each beaker, a hot plate to heat up the 100 milliliters of water to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. You're going to need 100 milliliters of cold water, about 53.2 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 milliliters of room temperature water at 66.3 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can use the hot plate to heat up the hot water of 100 milliliters to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. You will also need a timer, gloves so you can take the hot beaker off the hot plate, a thermometer, and last but not least, a stirring stick. First, you want to label each beaker, hot, cold, and room temperature. Start with the hot beaker that is filled to 100 milliliters of water and place it on the hot plate. As you see here, it is being placed on the hot plate, and once the water reaches 160 degrees Fahrenheit, while wearing the gloves, remove the beaker. Do not let the water boil because at that point the water begins to evaporate. And with the water still hot, pour in 100 grams of NaCl while hitting start on the timer button. Let the time run until the salt is completely dissolved, then hit stop and record how long it took for the salt to dissolve. The next experiment is at room temperature. At room temperature, about 66.3 degrees Fahrenheit, pour in 30 grams of salt into the 100 milliliters of water, and time how long it takes to dissolve. The last experiment is a cold water sample. At water temperature should be 53.2 degrees Fahrenheit, and pour in 30 grams of salt into the 100 milliliters of water. Time how long this takes for the salt to dissolve. Here are your results. The hot water is at 160 degrees Fahrenheit, taking 6 minutes and 20 seconds to dissolve. Room temperature at 66.3 degrees Fahrenheit takes 7 minutes and 30 seconds to dissolve. And cold water at 53.2 degrees Fahrenheit is 13 minutes and 19 seconds to dissolve. You can also examine the results in charts and graphs. Over here you see a chart of each system setup, how you should have your chart set up. Also, you could put it in a bar graph or a line graph, but the best way to view your results in this experiment would be using the Excel chart. After conducting our experiment, we were able to conclude and confirm our hypothesis that water at 160 degrees dissolves 30 grams of salt in 6 minutes and 20 seconds, making it the fastest way to dissolve the salt when compared with cold water and room temperature water. The slowest result was when we dissolved the salt in the cold water, which took 13 minutes and 19 seconds, about 7 minutes longer than that of the hot water experiment. Thank you for watching our presentation.